Ras Mengesha Yohannes. Ras Mengesha Yohannes Tigray, Mengesha Yohannes, 1868–1906 was governor of Tigray and a son of Atsi Yohannes Roman, 4R 1872–89. His mother was Weletekel Haymanot, wife of Dejazmach Gugsamercha. Ras Arya Selassie Yohannes was his older half-brother. Prior to the Battle of Metemma, Mengesha Yohannes was considered to be a nephew of Emperor Yohannes Roman IV. During the battle, the emperor was mortally wounded, and it was on his deathbed that Mengesha Yohannes was acknowledged as his natural son and designated as his heir. This created something of a succession problem. Fighting between various relatives of the slain emperor split his camp and prevented Mengesha from making a viable bid for the imperial throne. Instead, the throne was assumed by Negus Menelik of Shua. Ras Mengesha refused to submit to Menelik and later even flirted with joining the new Italian colony of Eritrea. He hoped that the Italians would support his rebellion against Emperor Menelik. However, encroachments by the Italians into his native Tigray, their previous enmity to his father Yohannes, and recognition that the ultimate goal of the Italians was to conquer Ethiopia themselves, led Mengesha Yohannes to finally submit to Menelik Roman II. On 2 June 1894, he and his 3 major lieutenants went to the new capital at Addis Ababa. Within the newly constructed reception hall of the Grand Palace, the emperor awaited them. He was seated on his throne with a large crown on his head. Mengesha Yohannes and his lieutenants each carried a rock of submission on his shoulder. They approached, prostrated themselves, and asked for forgiveness. Menelik simply declared them pardoned. Following their allegiance with Menelik, they returned to Tigray, where Batahagos initiated the rebellion against the Italians. Mengesha then led his army against the Italians at the Battle of Kotit, where his force was rebuffed. Another skirmish led by Fitarari Jebehu, the vanguard commander of Menelik forces on the way to Idwa, annihilated the Italians at Amba Alagi. The war culminated in 1896, as Mengesha Yohannes and the forces of Tigray fought at the side of Menelik against the Italians at the pivotal Battle of Idwa. In 1899, Mengesha Yohannes rebelled again against Menelik. When he was denied the title of Negus of Zion, his descendants would be outraged decades later when Ras Mikhail of Wolo was crowned with this title by Lige Iyasu. Emperor Menelik had Ras Mengesha captured and put under house arrest at the old Shuan royal palace at Ankober. Biography. Early life. Before 1889, Mengesha Yohannes was considered the emperor's nephew, but on 9 March 1889 the emperor on his deathbed in Metemma recognized him as his son from a side relation with his brother Gugs's wife. Therefore, some informants still claim that Mengesha Yohannes was strongly attached to Yohannes throughout his life. Dejazmach Mengesha Yohannes was designated by the emperor as his heir to the throne and allegedly crowned still on the battlefield of Metemma, but Mengesha Yohannes was not able to claim the throne. In the aftermath of the disastrous Battle of Metemma, the Tigrayan ruling families found themselves embroiled in a power struggle that led to a regional civil war. This state of anarchy sapped the energy of Mengesha Yohannes's camp to unite the region under his authority. Quickly, instead, Atsi Menelik Roman II was proclaimed emperor in November 1889. Ras Mengesha Yohannes, however, had the strong military and political backing of Yohannes's chief military general Ras Ulula Ingada. Additionally, he had inherited a considerable number of armaments and soldiers that had long bolstered the power of Yohannes Roman IV. However, historians cast doubts on Mengesha Yohannes's basic military prowess and leadership skills to mobilize the available resources and prevail over rivals, in contrast to his predecessor Yohannes. Mengesha Yohannes's strong political ambition once nearly pushed him to ally with the Italians, as demonstrated by the Mareb Convention of 1891. By 1890, the Italians had taken control of the Mareb Melesh and aimed at the control of entire Tigray. In the meanwhile, Mengesha Yohannes and his Tigrayan vassals had revolted against Menelik II. Italian attempts to instigate them were nonetheless short-lived. The Italians' non-committed stance, coupled with Mengesha Yohannes's hesitant attitude, finally convinced him to end his rebellion, even against the opposition of his councillors and his military supporters, such as Ras Rule. In June 1894, Mengesha Yohannes ultimately dropped his claims to the imperial throne and officially submitted to Menelik II, ostensibly in expectation of the title of Negus of Tigray. Menelik, in turn, appointed him governor, not Negus of Tigray. For a while, Mengesha Yohannes demonstrated his loyalty. The conflict subsequently developing between the Italians and Menelik gave him the opportunity to prove his indispensability to the central government. During the first phase, in the years 1894–95, the Italians made a number of incursions into northern Ethiopia. Mengesha Yohannes was then responsible for defending the northern borders. He was beaten in the two battles of Kwitit 1894, Senef Eritrea, and Deber Hale 1895. In early 1896, he even retreated from his stronghold Mekelle, but kept the Italians busy until a united Ethiopian army was gathered to face them. Ras Mengesha Yohannes played an even more important role in the next phase of the conflict. Together with Ras he was largely responsible for organizing and running the intelligence of Menelik II. He exploited his local connections, gathered intelligence, and rendered a fairly outstanding command of the Tigrayan army. All these inputs had a crucial role in deciding the outcome of the Battle of Adwa in 1896, which ended up as a grim loss to the Italians. Despite Mengesha Yohannes's retention of Tigray proper, Eritrea remained in the hands of the Italians. His proposal to sustain the war to push the Italians out of Eritrea was played down by the emperor, who focused on the control of his own realm. Menelik officially rewarded Mengesha Yohannes with 300,000 silver dollars and married him to Cafe Wheel Battle of Yeju, Tatu's niece. The marriage was meant to cement further the bonds between the houses of Tigray, Shua, and Yeju. It was obtained at the cost of divorcing his loving wife. Still, Mengesha Yohannes's long expectations of promotion to Negus of Tigray were shattered for the second time. Mengesha Yohannes's final and desperate rebellion in concert with Ras Sebhatavagame in 1898 ended with his captivity and confinement at Addis Ababa, starting from 1899, and then in Ankober, where he died as a prisoner in 1906. Mengesha Yohannes's controversial political career, however, left a legacy of Tigrayan identity and autonomy. Indeed, his son Lul Ras Sayum Mengesha and his grandson Lul Ras Mengesha Sayum were able to gain the governorship of Tigray, each at different stages of the history of this region, sometimes also partitioned among several governors, relatives of Mengesha Yohannes, until the 1974 revolution. Mengesha Sayum played then a role as the leader of an anti-Derg oppositional party, the Ethiopian Democratic Union, which dates back to the mid-1970s. Succession problems. The confusion over Ras Mengesha's parentage is due to the fact that his mother Wolit Tekel Haymanot Tomcho Wizero Tekel was betrothed to Dejazmach Gugsa. On the death of Ras Arya Selassie, son and heir of Yohannes, the title of Ras was conferred on Mengesha, and the army of Ras Arya Selassie was transferred under his command. It was only on his deathbed at Metemma that Yohannes declared to Ichet Tuoflos and the important dignitaries present that Mengesha was not the son of his brother Gugsa, but his. He thus acknowledged him as his son and declared him as his heir. Immediately after this announcement, close relatives of Yohannes, such as Fitarari Meshesha, son of Maru, Yohannes's brother, and Dejach Bogal Arya, son of Ras Arya Dimsu, maternal uncle of Yohannes, refused to accept Mengesha as the son and heir of Yohannes, claiming that they were equally entitled to succeed the. Since Gugsa had the same father and mother as Yohannes, the legitimacy of Mengesha would not have been affected if Yohannes had declared that he had chosen Mengesha, his nephew, as his heir. Mengesha, through his mother, had also additional claim to the imperial lineage. The only reason for claiming Mengesha as his own son was simply to reveal the truth, which hitherto was kept secret due to the close association that had existed between Yohannes's elder brother Djazmach Gugsa and Wizero Tekel, the mother of Mengesha. Augustus B. Wild, a correspondent of the British paper, the Manchester Guardian, who had been in Ethiopia as a member of the Hewitt mission of 1884, Biru Tefla, on the other hand, although he is aware of the various sources which assert that Mengesha was the natural son of Yohannes, has placed him as the son of Gugsa on the ground that most of the old people agree that Mengesha was the son of Gugsa, the eldest brother of the sovereign. Familial rivalry and division of Tigray. Even after the submission of Mengesha Yohannes, familial rivalry between the two lines of descent from Emperor Yohannes Roman IV proved to be a difficult issue for Emperor Menelik II and his successors. Yohannes Roman IV was survived by his elder legitimate son Ras Arya Selassie Yohannes and by his younger natural son Mengesha. Ras Arya's son Gugsa Arya and Ras Mengesha's son Ras Sayum would for a time divide Tigray between them, with Ras Gugsa Arya ruling the eastern half and Ras Sayum the western half. Eventually Mengesha's son Ras Sayum was made leader of all Tigray in succession to his father after the death of his cousin Ras Gugsa Arya and after the treason of Gugsa Arya's son, Djazmach Haile Selassie Gugsa. In 1935, Haile Selassie Gugsa joined forces with the Italian invaders when they conquered Ethiopia and occupied the country. Ras Mengesha is regarded as the founder of one of the two senior cadet branches of the Ethiopian imperial Solomonic dynasty.